Hi everybody, I'm back here talking about car racing. This is our third episode about how to get started. So in the previous episode, if you listen to it, I covered some alternative ways primarily to take your car or bigger cars or going to a racing school to learn some of the tricks and get the skills to actually be able to drive a car at its limit, right? So I was talking about track days when you can take your own car. I was talking about places where you can actually rent some race cars and have some fun with it, with some instruction, all the way to full racing schools where you actually will spend a lot of time behind the wheel and in class. So those are some of the options. But today, I want to talk about a different way to get started, which I think is the most ideal, but I'm biased. And it is karting. Go-karting, I'm not going to say go-karting. I don't like go-karting expression. It happens only in the US. The reason I don't like it, it's because it feels like those, amusement parks where you do have the go-karting event and a little attraction and you go and you bumper carts and that kind of stuff. This is not what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to talk about karting, performance karting, as it's known pretty much every place else but the US. Okay. So this is how I think today, without exception, all Formula One drivers, even the other lower categories like Formula 2 and 3, 4, that's how everybody starts. And it means that it is, of course, a cheaper version of racing to start with, yet quite expensive. You can spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're competing like at a world level, right? World championship level. Or even national levels in some countries, it will add up pretty quickly. You're gonna spend a lot of money. However, you don't have to, right? You can start with relatively low budget in local tracks, buying some good but used equipment. There's several options out there always. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what it is first. For those who are not familiar with it, and then how you can get going and why I think is the best way. I'm not alone, by the way. There are many very successful professional drivers and world champions that share the same opinion about karting being the best school, and not just for starters, but even like Formula One drivers today, when they're not allowed to be in Formula One cars during off season for training, they go back to karting, right? They don't go back to Formula 2. They don't go back to Formula 4. They don't go back driving stock cars. They go back to karting. So what is it really? What is karting? So karting is a very simple, right, race car. There are different types of it. It goes from, and depending on the age as well. So you get the little kids, with the big helmets. It's the cutest thing if you watch them race. And the structure is fairly similar. The chassis, the shape, and the way that the chassis is constructed is very similar across all the different categories. But of course, tires and kind of engine that is used varies a lot. Generally speaking, it will go from I'd say a 4-stroke, which is the slowest and the heaviest go-kart or kart. That's more of a go-kart, by the way, than a kart, right? It's the 4-stroke engine that you're gonna have in a big bulky chassis, typically full of bumpers and other protections. But that's a good way to feel the track and feel how it goes. They are quick, right? They can go up to like 50 miles, 55 miles per hour sometimes, depending on the track and the setup. And they'll give you a good feel of it. Once you get a good grasp, you can kind of move up another category, and the other category is a two-stroke engine. The two-stroke engines, you're gonna hear names like Rotax, like Yamaha, right? X30, the Leopard. So those engines are much more powerful, right? They rev up to 15,000 RPM. And they sound beautifully, by the way. And again, I said they're much faster. They have bigger torque, and they produce significant more, power. So you are talking then about 30 horsepower, give it or take. I'm giving very general numbers, and the chassis becomes lighter, right? So what happens is the power to, or weight to power ratio becomes significantly bigger. Typically like 4 or 5 times the bigger, bulkier 4-stroke kart. So it's much more agile. The tires and the compound of the tires change. They become more soft. So you have a ton of grip as well, which we don't have in the previous one. And that allows you to make those turns much, much faster. So the G-forces in your body increases, the overall fitness and level of preparedness and skills also increase significantly. And that's where sort of you really start to feel what it is to drive one of those machines and to drive a real race car. So that's the beginning, and it's called sometimes performance karts. It is harder to rent them in the US. In Europe is a little bit more common. So South America. I'm not aware about Asia, to be honest. But it is a little bit difficult to find tracks who would rent those performance karts. They are, it's harder to maintain them, and they don't want to give it to anybody, right? For safety reasons, seriously, because you can get seriously hurt if you try to push the boundaries on those machines without having the right training and skills. But you can find them. My local track called Oakland Valley Race Park, upstate New York. They do offer a program where they call it Intro to Karting, where they progressively move you up from the 4-stroke to a lighter, chassis 4-stroke, different compounds in terms of tires, to a performance, Rotax, go-kart or kart, and then and that's where they stop, by the way. So you have those categories. There are obviously subcategories within these that will vary in terms of what kind of tires you're allowed to use. Different types of engines, chassis will vary a bit. Those are sort of the what they look like. The last and the most, I would say, aggressive and the fastest, of course, is a shifter kart, which I'm proudly owner of one. Those are also 2-stroke engines, but as the name implies, they have the ability to shift gears. So you have a much more distributed torque curve or curves, right? Depending on the shift, there are six gears, usually manually, right? The clutch is in the hand. You change the gears with the right hand normally, and you get to drive them. They have much more horsepower. I mean, we're talking about like 45. In some cases, I've heard about 50 horsepower, and a chassis that weighs 200 pounds plus the driver. So you do the math, and they are extremely fast, and they are very difficult to drive, right? So you won't find anywhere that I'm aware of no track or no person allowing crazy enough to rent one of those. I think they will put the person in a great harm's way. Anybody who doesn't know how to drive those, plus destroy the equipment. Plus, honestly, nobody would actually be able to push the limit without having a ton of experience driving karts. But this is sort of the ultimate machine in terms of karting, right? There's nothing beyond that. It is extremely fun, right? Depending on the setup, again, and the track, they can go above 100 miles per hour. And keep in mind that you are about an inch or two above the ground. G forces go, higher than 3 Gs, sometimes even, peaks of 4 Gs on a turn. And 0 to 60 and 60 to 0 in less than 2 seconds, again, depending on the setup. So again, they are incredibly fast. You will not drive anything faster probably in your life if you manage to get in one of those. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do some practice runs tomorrow with my new engine on my shifter. So it's a Honda engine, by the way, but you have other specs. I'm not going to get into the details. So that's sort of what the machines are. Now, the second topic is, how you can get started. I kind of hinted in terms of the progression and some places where you can actually rent them. There is an option called Ignite Series, which is a 4-stroke in a lighter chassis, very competitive. The tires will last the whole season, for instance, not like the tires in the tag, right, category, just called sort of arrive and you turn and you go, or the shifter, where it typically lasts as a race. They are much softer compounds, and the tire kind of has a huge grip level, but it will kind of disintegrate after a few laps and definitely after a couple races. So those are the Ignite series, are much harder compounds. The engine will not require a lot of maintenance. Again, they're not super fast, but they will teach you a ton. They're very sensitive. Brakes work really well, and they slide easily. So you have to refine your driving. So they are a great way to start. That would be my recommendation as an adult. If you want to get it going, these are probably your best options. The Ignite series and the like, which has enough power, but not a lot to overwhelm you, and allows you to develop that, refine driving skills. So look for that class, look for the 4-stroke, lighter chassis that look like Ignites, the Ignite category if you want to start. And then if you enjoy, and if you get bitten by the bug, the racing bug, prepare your wallet and enjoy sort of progressing. So I've seen many even older guys, and definitely kids, but older guys progressing from, I went to this RPM place with the electric go-karts. Those are go-karts, right? In the amusement park. I really enjoy it. I think I rock. And then, I said, okay, and then try something else a little bit better in an open track. Those Ignite series are the best. And then they have a lot of fun. And it goes like, a couple of years, probably they move up to the 2-stroke called Tag, T-A-G, Tag, right, series. So they start with the 2-stroke much faster. It takes them probably another couple of years, depending, of course, everybody's different, but 2 or 3 years to get going and hone their driving skills using those. And some of them actually go up to shifter carts, but most of them don't. It's just a lot of work. Going up to shifters. But so this is how I suggest you get started, and why, right? That's the last part, and why I think it is the best. School is the best way to develop your skills. It's a raw piece of machinery, right? You will learn. It doesn't have a suspension, right? So you learn to feel it. The feeling is super important, right? As you drive more and more karts, you understand, right, what you need to adjust. And I recommend, and some of the new generation of drivers that I've seen and have helped, they kind of are more interested in coming and just driving. There is a ton of analytics and computing now that is part of it. It's helping you adjust and set up the right or find the right setup, given the track, given the weather conditions, given the style that you drive. So you can let the computer do a lot of the work these days. I'm old, right? When there were no computers. and I still use a lot of my feelings and say, okay, now the car is understeering a little bit here, it's oversteering there. I feel that is a little bit, not engaging when I want it to in turns 1 and 3. So you start developing that sense and that feeling, what the car is telling you, and you translate that into other race cars. This is super important. Even if you're not competing, that teaches you so much about car behavior, the dynamics, the physics, right? And your own style of driving. Everybody's different. Somebody prefers more, understeering. Somebody prefers more oversteering. So that a kart will give you, right? Again, it's raw. It will translate everything that is happening physically to you, to your body. You actually use part of your body, because it's almost half of the weight, right, as a mechanism to even go faster. So this is the best school. This is why everybody goes back to karting. Everybody starts at karting, develops a different sense of what the car is telling you and how to drive fast. Again, you can listen to many other much better drivers than I am, professional Formula One and the likes, talk about it, and you're going to hear the same message over and over and over. So it is the best school. It will give you reflexes that you didn't know you have. Everything happens extremely fast in a kart, much faster than Formula cars, for instance, all the way to Formula, 2. Right? Formula 2 is probably getting closer, and then Formula 1, according to Formula 1 drivers, is sort of the closest to, a kart is the closest to a Formula 1 and vice versa. So everything happens super fast, right? So it requires you to develop those reflexes, right? How you react, how you think. And it's better than anything else, right? You can drive a Mazda Miata on a track. Everything will happen very, very slowly if you're used to racing karts. You almost, I joke that you can adjust the radio, listen to the music while you're racing. Because again, everything happens slowly. The tracks are longer, right? The car will react much slower. If you are kart racing, things happen, in a millisecond, and you have to react, right? There's no place. So much so that if you look at races, kart races, they don't last long, right? It's not an hour-long race. It's typically a 20-minute race, right? For a few reasons. One, you get exhausted, right? My heartbeat, and I've been doing this for many years, but my average heartbeat during a race, 20-minute race, is about 160. And that's a lot. No matter how old you are, or if you are, the level of fitness you have, it's a lot. Plus, the equipment will probably not last because, again, it's pushed to its limits. So the races are short. So we have like one pre-race and race and qualifying. It's just 5 minutes. So very little room for mistakes. Equipments are fairly similar, so the races are usually very competitive. And again, extremely fast reflexes. So think about it. Those are the reasons. You can definitely find way more information on the web about it. Ping me if you want more details about anything really, equipment, places to go, tracks, people to talk to. Again, I've been in this family for many years in Brazil and in the US, so I'm sure I can help you with what you need. Thank you very much, guys. I'll think about the next episode about racing, but I think I covered sort of what I wanted so far. Talk to you guys later. Bye.